Welcome back to another video on the channel. So it happened, the two teenage sensations reached the Women's 2021 US Open final. A fairy tale ending to what's been one of the greatest Grand Slams I can ever remember watching. Leila Fernandez has battled through one of the toughest draws in major history to reach the final. RADUCANU is the first qualifier ever on men's and women's side to reach a major final. Two outstanding young talents, both excellent to watch, produce big time tennis under pressure. I'll enjoy watching the final, as I'm sure the whole world will, and a lot of people out there will be neutrals and just hoping for a good match, and whoever wins will be a fantastic story, being the ages that they are. But being a Brit, I do have to support Emma Raducanu, and I'd love to see her lifting the title come Saturday night. So starting with Leila Fernandez, she's beaten Kanepi, Osaka, Kerber, Svitolina and Sabalenka. To knock out the second, third and fifth seeds is a quite incredible run for an 18-year-old, now just turned 19. 4 of those wins have also been deciding sets. And as good as Fernandez has played on court, all of those players are vastly more experienced, yet it has been Fernandez that has shown the fight, the heart, played the best tennis in the biggest moments under pressure to edge those tight matches, and it's just been exceptional to see the way that she's problem solved and returned and served so well in the big moments and edged them. And you've got to tip your hat to her and give a huge credit for the tennis that she's produced so far these 2 weeks. Even last night I was so impressed with her mentally as well. Sabalenka was absolutely flawless for the first 5 games, serving 120-mile-an-hour aces, smashing forehand winners, backhand winners down the line. But Fernandez's mentality and head never ever dropped, as she was probably anticipating a fast start from Sabalenka. But we know Sabalenka's got that mental fragility, and if Fernandez knew that she was battle hardened in this tournament, she'd edge Svitolina in a close one, she'd edge Kerber in a close one. The same with Osaka. She knew if she could take sets close, then she might just outlast and force errors out of Sabalenka, and that's exactly what happened. In the opening set, she kept in it. From 4-1, she wrestled back to 4-4, waited for a drop from Sabalenka, which naturally came, and pounced. She played an outstanding tiebreak again, defended brilliantly. She got the crowd behind her, forced errors, served big, and she fully deserved that comeback win in the opening set. The deciding set was pretty much the same as the first, I felt. She kept it close, she backed herself when it got towards the winning line to mentally defeat Sabalenka. As I mentioned there, Sabalenka is mentally fragile, and it's sad to see. She plays so well to get to the semi-final. Looks absolutely in control of the tournament, almost looks like it's on a racket. She's playing that well. When it gets to the big moments in semi-finals, she just doesn't quite have the mental capacity to overcome those hurdles yet. But I think one day we will see Sabalenka win a Grand Slam title, and she could go on and win many more. I think it's just a case of getting that first one's almost always the most difficult. It was nice to see, though, from a tennis fan's point of view, that a massive ball striker can still be defeated by a crafty, skillful teenager that has a huge heart and will to win. I think that's what we saw evidence of last night. Fernandez uses her lefty serve very well to move opponents wide. The forehand has worked very well for this tournament, and I think with every performance you see from Fernandez, you can see her growing in confidence and being more aggressive and getting on the front foot. I also felt last night she didn't try and have a toe-to-toe war with Sabalenka, because that was only going to go one way. She can behind the baseline at times, but she redirects play so well, anticipates play very well, uses variations. Impressive problem solving, I think, for a very young player. She targeted Sabalenka's backhand last night and forced double faults through sheer mental pressure and exceptional returning, which was again very impressive from Fernandez. So moving on now to Emma Raducanu, who has had probably a slightly easier draw than Fernandez, although you don't get much difficult than hers. But she still had to come through Shelby Rogers, who obviously defeated world number 1 Ashley Barty, and then past Olympic gold medalist Belinda Bencic, before last night beating Maria Sakkari, who was in fantastic form coming into that one. She's won 18 consecutive sets, which, if you include qualifying, just an unbelievable number and something that's pretty much unheard of. So far I've been astounded by Raducanu's quality. I've known for a good couple of years she's a good player, but I don't think anyone in the world can say that we thought she was capable of doing this so early in her career. Her movement is just effortless, almost glides around the court, reminds me a little bit of Federer-like, just seems to be always in the right position, doesn't seem to have to sprint for the ball, just seems to read play so well, and Um, she's got insane defensive skills, to get the balls back in court, but also to counter punch so well. She passed Sakari a number of times at the net yesterday when Sakari was trying to change things up. Raducanu at least immediately put the doubt back in her mind by playing outstanding passing shots down the line. And net play was absolutely brilliant last night. Haven't seen a lot of Raducanu around the net, but I thought her hands were fantastic yesterday. In the big points when she wanted to, win a quick short point, she attacked the net with real conviction and authority. She was 9 out of 9 on net play points at one point as well. The backhand down the line is just an absolute wand. I think it's Raducanu's probably her go-to shot, and last night it was just on fire from ball one to the very last. Painting the lines consistently, being aggressive, going for it time and time again, and she just barely missed the ball all night. But to do that under so much pressure at 18 years old is probably going to go underrated. One of the most impressive things as well about Raducanu has been all tournament is her serve, particularly under pressure. But, it's the return of serve that has destroyed everyone that she's played physically and mentally. She punished every single Maria Sakkari second serve last night, which forced double faults, and I was slightly worried about Sakkari's serve last night from a Raducanu fan point of view. She came into that match and she won 22 consecutive points against Pliskova. But just the mental pressure that Raducanu put on Sakkari early by returning so well just forced Sakkari to try something different on serve, and it never really quite came off. She served a very low percentage of first serves, a lot of double faults, and Raducanu was getting chances on pretty much every single Sakkari service game. She reminds me a little bit of Djokovic when serving and returning does Raducanu. She returns deep, but she puts her on the front foot. Then she just dictates there with accuracy and conviction. Something that you have to do in a fast hard court, I think, is serve and return. As I say, get inside that baseline, open up in the forehands and backhands and back yourself, and that's what Raducanu's done throughout this 2 weeks fantastically well. For me, although she's only 18 and we haven't seen much of her, I think she's one of the best returners in the world on the women's game. Just the anticipation, the aggression, the depth is so consistent. Piles pressure on the opponent from ball one to the very last, and we haven't really seen anybody serves very well against Raducanu yet because of the quality of Raducanu's returning, and the pressure that puts on you mentally is immense. So in terms of where this match could be won and lost, I've picked out 2 big pluses for Raducanu and 1 for Leila Fernandez, and then I'm going to give my final prediction. Raducanu's yet to drop a set. That's obviously very good physically. She's spent a lot less time on court than Leila Fernandez. She must feel invincible out there. She's barely being pushed. I'm sure she's had to work very hard, and last night, even in the opening 4 games, Raducanu led 4-0. It could have been 4-0 Sakkari, had a couple of points, went neither way. But she's still yet to drop a set. She's won 18 consecutively. Will Leila Fernandez fatigue? We haven't seen any signs of that yet. I thought last night in the third set we might have saw them, but we didn't. She looked fresher, if anything, than Sabalenka. But at some point we may see the legs start to tire of Fernandez. She has spent an awful lot of time on court for a young player. And also what I just mentioned, another big plus for Raducanu is that return of serve. Fernandez does have a solid serve, but just nobody will have returned as well in this tournament as what Raducanu will on Saturday night. If you face a few return winners in the opening couple of games, the serve suddenly starts dropping and becomes a hindrance rather than a weapon, because you're just waiting for a vicious return. Raducanu is going to get up inside the baseline, backhand cross court or forehands down the line. Anything goes with Raducanu at the moment, and as I say, the serve starts to become a weakness rather than a positive, which gives her a huge mental shift towards Raducanu. In terms of a positive for Leila Fernandez, she's battle hardened. She's looked down and out a few times this tournament, but she's found a way to win, and you can't fluke that. It's particularly against the likes of Kerber and Osaka, who've been there and won Grand Slam titles. She's beaten the very, very best in times where she shouldn't be. She's a fighter. She doesn't give up, and it just puts doubt in the opponent's mind. You're always wary of, is she going to come back? When's Fernandez going to light the fire and start to run her games and get the crowd behind her? You're almost waiting for a comeback if she goes behind. Whereas Raducanu has cruised through. As I mentioned there, that's good for the body, but she hasn't faced any adversity yet. No tie breaks, no sets lost. If Fernandez was to win the opening set, how will Raducanu react to that? If Raducanu wins the opening set, then you sort of know that Fernandez is going to fight back at some point. So it has its pros and cons for cruising through and then having to battle through. It has its pros and cons either way, but I think the fact that Fernandez is battle hard and will give her a slight advantage over RADUCANU in a final as well. It's very important. So in terms of prediction, I think before last night, if this was a semi-final, I would have made Fernandez a favourite due to who she has beat so far in this tournament and the edge slightly in experience. However, I thought RADUCANU was absolutely exceptional last night in every single department. You know, there was nothing in the game that looked attackable. Sakaris looked like they've run out of ideas from the open set. The serve, the return, the backhands, the net player, the temperament, mentally so tough, served it out so well from love 15. I think she's just riding an incredible wave at the moment, but staying grounded at the same time. But for me, watching as a tennis fan, her name for me is on the trophy. She's just outclassing everybody, and I'm going to predict RADUCANU to win it in straight sets. I think she's a brilliant front runner. I think RADUCANU will come out serving and returning very well, try and snatch an early break and secure the opening set, and from that point I just can't see RADUCANU being pegged back and losing 2 sets consecutively with the tennis that she's produced so far this 2 weeks. But I can't wait for the final. I did say in my semi-final prediction video that if we got to a teenage semi-final, it would be what has been deserved for a fantastic Grand Slam, and that's exactly what we've got. So whoever wins I'll be pleased for, but as I mentioned, being a Brit I have to cheer on RADUCANU, and that's exactly what I'll be doing. If you do have any predictions yourself for the final, do leave them in the comment section below. I do always enjoy reading those. If you can leave a like in the video, it is much appreciated. Thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.